After Adrian and I broke up and got back together, I no longer clung to him the way I used to. He came home late at night after having dinner with his colleagues. His face dark as he asked me, "Do you know I've been waiting for your call? All the other guys' girlfriends called them. Only you didn't. You weren't like this before." I softly cut him off. "But, didn't you say that was really annoying?" He froze. Chapter 1. Adrian came back when I was already asleep. He staggered drunkenly as he pushed open the bedroom door. I jolted awake. The bedroom light was suddenly turned on by him, and the sudden brightness made me shut my eyes instinctively. He tossed his coat onto the floor, reeking of alcohol from head to toe, his expression unhappy. "Why didn't you call me?" I didn't react for a moment. "What?" His thick brows lowered, anger mixed with an indescribable grievance. I said, "I went out for dinner tonight, and you didn't call me. All the other guys' girlfriends and wives called them. Only you didn't. I waited for your call until midnight." His anger grew as he spoke, his chest heaving sharply. He reached up and tugged at his tie. "You weren't like this before. Every time I went out, you'd call me at 9, telling me to drink less, come home early, asking who I was with and whether there were any women. This time you didn't ask anything." He pointed at the sleep mask I was wearing. "And before, if I wasn't home, you wouldn't even sleep. Now you don't even leave a light on for me. When I came home the whole place was pitch black." I looked at him and softly cut him off. "But, didn't you say that was annoying?" Adrian's voice stopped abruptly. All his words stuck in his throat. I lowered my eyes. "Last time I went to pick you up, you forgot? You told me yourself that I was being annoying, and that I should stop interfering in your life." Because of phone calls during his gatherings, Adrian and I had already argued several times before our breakup. Several young nurses in his department openly or secretly had a crush on him. I'd bumped into little nurses giving him lunchboxes more than once. And recently, one of his junior schoolmates was interning there. They got along well. I admit I had no sense of security at all, so I couldn't help asking him more. And his stomach is bad whenever he drinks too much. His stomach hurts for days. I always worried that he'd overdrink and couldn't help calling to remind him. The last fight before our breakup was also because he went to dinner with his department. And at 9 I couldn't help calling. The call rang for a long time before he finally picked up, his impatient voice coming from the other end. "What now?" I spoke carefully. "Your stomach was hurting a few days ago. Please drink less." I heard a girl laughing beside him. "Don't worry, sis-in-law. I'll keep an eye on our senior for you." I froze. I was about to ask Adrian why he said there would be no girls at the dinner tonight, but the call was hung up cleanly before I could say it. By midnight he still hadn't come back. When I called again, he didn't answer, worried something had happened because he'd been drinking. I drove to the place they often gathered for dinner, but as soon as I got out of the car, I saw Adrian, eyes clear, not drunk at all, taking off his coat and draping it over a young girl standing across from him. It was his junior, Teresa. The others saw me and teased Adrian. "Strict wife. Huh. TSK. That's love for you. My wife is probably asleep already. She doesn't care if I drop dead." Director Adrian is really blessed. But Adrian's expression grew darker with every comment. Beside him, Teresa had her hair neatly tied up, looking very pretty. When she saw me, she pulled his coat around herself and leaned toward him playfully. "Senior, your girlfriend controls you more strictly than a mom, calling you all night and even coming to pick you up." Adrian looked at me coldly. "What are you doing here?" I bit my lip. "You didn't answer my call. I was afraid something happened to you," he said impatiently. "What could possibly happen to me? Don't you have anything else to do? Can you stop circling around me all day? It's exhausting." In public, with all his colleagues' eyes on me, I suddenly felt humiliated. Teresa curled her lips. "Sis-in-law, I don't mean to meddle, but when you're dating, you have to give each other space." She walked to my side, speaking softly. "Men are like sand in your palm. The tighter you grip, the faster they slip away. Senior Adrian is already very busy. If you keep acting like this, of course he'll feel pressured. Don't you think?" No need to tell her that. She wouldn't understand anyway. Adrian opened the car door for Teresa. "Get in. I'll drive you home." He didn't look at me again. He brushed past me and got in the car. Teresa even rolled the window down to wave at me. We're heading out first. Sis-in-law. I stood alone in the cold wind, watching the car turn a corner and disappear. A young nurse from his department walked over to comfort me. Director Adrian is probably in a bad mood lately. He's been busy with a lot of patients. Don't be angry, Margarita. The winter wind was so cold. I tightened my coat around myself and murmured, Chapter 2. Breaking up with Adrian happened because of many reasons. After I made that decision, all my friends thought I had gone crazy. With someone like Adrian, you still want to break up? Then what kind of man are you even trying to find? I understood why they didn't understand. Adrian was basically the kind of perfect boyfriend in the eyes of the world. Handsome, wealthy family, capable. After finishing his direct PhD program, he smoothly entered the best hospital in the province and even in the entire country, and had already become the youngest associate director, with a future that everyone praised. He was generous with me too. The gifts he gave me during holidays were so expensive that I couldn't possibly afford something comparable in return. After I graduated and commuting became difficult, he just bought me a car. Even my parents said I must have stepped on gold luck to end up with him. But I always felt he didn't love me. He only loved the role of girlfriend that I was filling. He was fulfilling the duties of a boyfriend, and no matter who his girlfriend was, he'd treat her the same way. I wasn't seen. He didn't care about my emotions, nor did he want me clinging to him. What he told me the most was that he hoped I could be more independent. All these years, he was busy with school and work. We hardly even went on dates. I ate alone, watched movies alone, spent birthdays alone, stayed home alone waiting for him to come back. He didn't like me. I clearly had a boyfriend. Yet somehow I felt even lonelier than being single. I didn't want to keep living like that. Breaking up was easier than I thought. When I called Adrian, I originally wanted us to talk, but he just said an indifferent and hung up. I didn't expect that 3 months after our breakup, he would show up drunk at my place. Liking him had already become a habit. We somehow ended up tangled together again, and somehow got back together again. But after that, I kept thinking about the things he'd said, and I tried hard to make myself more independent. Yet now, he was asking me why I didn't call him? Adrian clearly remembered that fight too. His lips moved. Back then I lowered my eyes. I'm tired. Let's sleep. If it were before, I definitely would have argued with him. Maybe even fought with him emotionally, and then stayed up all night feeling hurt. But now, I suddenly felt it was all meaningless. I was exhausted, too tired to say anything at all. Adrian's light brown eyes trembled behind his rimless glasses. He pressed a hand to his stomach. My stomach hurts. Can you make me some noodles? In the past, every time Adrian drank, I would cook him a bowl of noodles. The warm bowl would soothe his stomach pain. But now, all that old heartache was gone, replaced only by the irritation of being woken up. I curled back into the bed, turning my back to him. The noodles are in the kitchen. You can cook them yourself. And close the door when you leave. I have work tomorrow. Silence fell behind me. After a long while, the bed dipped as Adrian stood up. After a few heavy footsteps, the door closed softly. Darkness returned to the bedroom. I closed my eyes. Chapter 3. When I woke up early the next morning, Adrian was already gone. The ashtray on the coffee table was full of cigarette butts. He hadn't slept all night. I withdrew my gaze and didn't ask anything. By the time I realized I should go to the hospital, I had already been running a low fever and coughing for several days. I forced myself to go, and unexpectedly, it turned out to be pneumonia. On the way to get in for infusion, I happened to run into a young nurse from Adrian's department. She looked at my complexion and asked, "Margarita, what's wrong? You're sick." Pneumonia. I smiled at her. "I'm going for in a bit." "You came by yourself?" She was surprised. "Why didn't you tell Director Adrian? Let him accompany you." I paused. "He's busy." "I'm fine. I don't want to bother him." "Well, okay. If anything happens, come find me." Thank you." After saying goodbye, I went to the 4-room to get my infusion. It was cold. As the medicine entered my veins, there was a slight chill. A young couple sat next to me. The girl was getting in 4, and the boy, looking distressed for her, took off his coat and draped it over her, letting her lean on his shoulder to sleep. When his girlfriend fell asleep, he kept gently holding the 4 tubing, warming the medicine with his palm. I leaned back in the chair. I must have been too exhausted, because I actually fell asleep on such a hard seat. Half awake, half asleep. I dreamed of the time before Adrian and I broke up. Back then, I still clung to him. Once, I had a bad bout of acute gastroenteritis, vomiting and stomach pain so severe that I had no choice but to go to the hospital. The doctor prescribed N4, and I begged Adrian to stay with me for a bit. I feel awful. Can you stay with me for a while? Just a little while. Adrian only glanced at me coldly. Acute gastroenteritis won't kill you. Can you stop being so dramatic? Do you know how many patients are waiting for me? I wanted to say more, but Teresa walked in. The moment she saw Adrian, she grabbed his arm. Senior, you're here? There's a patient whose symptoms I can't figure out. I'm scared the supervisor will scold me. Can you look at it with me? Her tone was full of coquettish pleading. Adrian's expression softened. What symptoms? Don't worry, I'll go with you. As he spoke, he looked back at me. I thought he would at least say something to show concern. But instead, he only said flatly, after the 4, just go home yourself. I'm busy. I won't come back to see you. I watched as he and Teresa walked out. When she reached the door, Teresa looked back at me. It was a smile, slightly provocative, slightly triumphant. Acute gastroenteritis really is unbearable. At one point I felt like vomiting again, so I asked the nurse to remove the needle, and I staggered to the bathroom to throw up until my vision spun. After vomiting, I held onto the sink and stared at myself in the mirror. Pale, weak. The needle mark on my hand was still bleeding. I hadn't even pressed it properly, and blood smeared onto my clothes. I looked utterly miserable. After that day, I never asked Adrian to accompany me when I was sick again. In my days, someone placed a piece of clothing over me. I opened my eyes and saw Adrian standing in front of me, his brows tightly knitted. You're sick. Why didn't you tell me? The 4 was almost finished. I took the piece of clothing off my body. It's nothing serious. I know you're busy. No matter how busy I am, I'd still have time for something like tea. His hand froze mid-gesture. I knew he had also remembered what happened before. Senior, there's a surgery later that I can't handle on my own. Can you? Teresa suddenly walked in. When she saw me, she smiled faintly. Sis-in-law, you're here. Where are you feeling unwell? Why didn't you tell us? I ignored her and said to Adrian calmly, I'm leaving. I'll take you, he said. He grabbed my hand, then turned back to Teresa and said, I don't have time. Go find someone else. His tone was cold, completely different from before. I was a little surprised. Had they fallen out? But I had no interest in knowing anymore. No need. I pushed Adrian's hand away. You're busy. He froze. I turned and left. Chapter 4. I was awakened in the morning by the smell of something burnt. Rushing out of my room in a panic, I thought I was dreaming. Adrian was wearing an apron. The kitchen filled with black smoke as he coughed awkwardly and came out holding a spatula. When he saw me, his face flushed red. I was trying to make breakfast, but I didn't expect. I walked over to take a look. I had no idea what Adrian had intended to cook, judging from the pan. It seemed like eggs, but most of it had already turned black. His movements as he wiped his hands on the apron were stiff and uneasy. I didn't expect it to burn so fast. I thought it would be simple. I frowned and turned the heat down. You need low heat to fry eggs. With the heat this high, of course they burned. The same hands that never trembled while holding a scalpel couldn't even handle a spatula. I understood. Though, Adrian grew up in a privileged family. They had 2 nannies just to look after him. He never had to lift a finger, so it made sense that he didn't know how to fry an egg. What do you want to eat? He lowered his gaze and asked cautiously. Should I order takeout? No need. I put the pan into the sink and noticed the angry red burns on his hand. Don't do things like this anymore. Adrian's expression brightened. He intentionally raised his burned fingers closer to me, speaking softly. It's fine. You used to make breakfast for me every day. I can make it for you every day too. Whatever you like. I can learn. You don't need to worry about me. I cut him off. Irritation rising. That's not it. I'm in a rush in the mornings. I can eat at the office. You don't need to do these unnecessary things. His swollen fingers froze midair. A sudden wave of emotion welled up inside me, leaving me restless and irritable. This absurd breakfast reminded me of how absurd I had once been. Adrian had a weak stomach. If he skipped breakfast before work, he'd end up in pain. I hadn't known how to cook at first either, but later, wanting him to at least eat something in the mornings, I began practicing dishes at home with cookbooks. I lost count of how many times I burned or cut my fingers, but eventually I learned how to cook well enough to make a different breakfast every day of the week. But he rarely ate them. He said, "Stop doing these pointless things. I'm busy. I don't have time for the stuff you make." Every time. I ate the two-person breakfast alone at the table, then threw away his untouched portion. So after we got back together, I never cooked breakfast again. I never expected him to start making breakfast now. If this had happened before, I probably would have been so happy I would have thought it was a dream. But now, I only felt annoyed. I couldn't help laughing a little, suddenly realizing how absurdly I now understood how Adrian used to feel. So this was what it felt like, to be doted on by someone you didn't like. But as soon as the thought formed, I froze. So, had I already stopped liking him? Chapter 5. On the way to the company, I leaned against the taxi window in a daze. There was a cloud in the sky shaped like a little dog. Instinctively, I took a photo of it, only to realize I had no idea who I wanted to send it to. I hadn't shared things with Adrian for a long time. Opening our chat history, the last message was the one he sent yesterday asking if I had gotten home safely. I didn't reply. It didn't used to be like this. I used to love sharing things with him, a dog I saw on the street, a delicious ice cream I tried, even a dream I had. But he rarely replied, and when he did, it was only an indifferent meme. When I asked him about it, he would only say, "Do you think I'm as free as you are every day? I have tons of surgeries to do. Can't you find something else to do?" Gradually, I shared less and less, until now. I realized it had been a long time since I sent him anything on my own. I felt lost. It seemed I truly didn't love Adrian anymore. The love I once thought was so deep, so painful that I believed I would die without him, had slowly worn away. Every time he refused to comfort me, I silently forced myself to quit loving him a little more. Until today, when the thought of breaking up came to mind, my first reaction was unexpectedly relief. I hesitated for a moment and reached for my phone. But suddenly, 2 messages popped up. Adrian said, "How are you feeling today? If you're not well, leave work early. I'll pick you up." Halu said, "She insists on coming home with me." The picture was of a slender hand holding a tiny orange kitten, barely a month old. I couldn't help laughing. Snatching someone's baby on the street? He replied quickly, "Her mom doesn't want her anymore. From now on, I'm her dad." Halu was Thomas, an intern who once joined our company. I trained him for 3 months before I found out he was actually the only son of the former chairman, back to inherit the family business this time. The old chairman was strict with him, insisting he start from the bottom. When I first found out, I was terrified, because I had bossed him around plenty during those 3 months. I thought I would get fired. Unexpectedly, when he became president, I was promoted to executive assistant, working with him every day. Thomas didn't have the arrogance of a boss. He talked nonstop every day. At most, he messaged me 6 times a day. He would share even a funny video with me. I thought for a moment and sent him the photo of the dog-shaped cloud. "Looks like you." But then it felt inappropriate, and I was about to withdraw it when he replied instantly, "Then adopt the kitten too." Perfect combo, cat and dog. I laughed. A faint sense of guilt rose in my heart. I had a boyfriend. Sharing things like this with another man didn't feel right. But then I remembered how Adrian used to be with Teresa. Back then, his phone often buzzed at night, and he sometimes smiled faintly while replying. Once, I secretly checked his phone and discovered he was chatting with Teresa. And it wasn't anything work-related. Teresa would complain that the supervisor was harsh that day. Tell him a new hot pot restaurant outside the city was delicious and she wanted to go with him. Tell him how amazing he was, that the surgery he performed today was brilliant. I had confronted Adrian. "Don't you think talking like this is inappropriate? Doesn't she know you have a girlfriend? Why does she share everything with you?" It's a complete lack of boundaries. Adrian didn't look guilty at all. He only looked at me coldly. I hate people checking my phone the most. Don't project your dirty thoughts onto others. If you can't accept it, we can break up. Looking back now, I only remember how painful every day felt back then. Even though it was a relationship between two people, it felt lonelier than being alone. Adrian was so indifferent to me. I was like an invisible person he couldn't see. I looked down at his message on my phone and, for the first time, began to seriously think that maybe I should break up with him. Chapter 6. The heavy summer rain came suddenly. I frowned as I watched the raindrops slam against the window as if they were about to shatter the glass. Our company was in the busiest part of downtown. It was always congested during off-work hours. And with the rain, it was even harder to catch a taxi. Just as I was debating whether to brave the rain and take the subway, a hand suddenly appeared on my desk. It set down a cup of coffee. Thomas's black suit jacket had already been unbuttoned. The collar of his white shirt was loosened, and his tie hung loosely. On his face, the kind that could easily land him a top modeling job, he showed a bright smile with a row of white teeth. Boss, I switched your coffee to an oat milk Hong Kong style milk tea latte. Any other orders? My face flushed. Back when he was an intern, I treated him casually and informally. We always bought milk tea for each other, and every time he got something for me, he'd tease me by calling me boss. Now look, he was an actual boss. Why haven't you left yet? There was a meeting. Those old men drag things out forever. They can split one sentence into 8 pieces. Come on, I'll give you a ride. No, my place is way out east. I declined. It's fine, I live over there too. It's on the way. I thought for a moment. Okay, on the way. Thomas kept talking nonstop. He wasn't a talkative person around others. I never understood why he became so chatty when he was with me. Before I knew it, he had pulled me out of my gloomy mood. I looked at the kitten videos he handed me on his phone and discussed with him what name the kitten should have. It wasn't until we reached my building that I realized how quickly that half-hour ride had passed. Thomas took out an umbrella and walked me all the way to my door. After watching him leave, I turned to head upstairs. The moment I turned around, I froze. A beam of headlights cut sharply toward me like a blade. Adrian stepped out of the car, his face dark. He didn't even have an umbrella. Rain quickly soaked through his coat. He stopped in front of me, expressionless. Who is he? A colleague. I tried to go upstairs, but he grabbed my wrist hard. Why didn't you answer my messages? Why did you let him bring you home? His eyes were cold and aggressive. I furrowed my brows. What messages? When I checked my phone, I finally saw what he sent. Margarita, I have a surgery in a bit. Wait for me. I'll pick you up right after. At that time, I had been busy talking with Thomas and didn't notice it. I didn't see the message, and he was heading the same way. So he drove me. What's there to question? What exactly is your relationship with him? Why were you chatting and laughing with him? The way he looks at you is wrong. I shook off his hand impatiently. Can you stop being unreasonable? Didn't you drive Teresa home many times before? Weren't you laughing and chatting with her too? So does that mean there was something between you two? That's different. I took a deep breath. Adrian, I think this is pointless. Let's break up. The rain poured down violently. A flash of shock crossed Adrian's eyes, and after a long moment, he finally spoke. What did you say? Once the words left my mouth, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. My voice even flowed more smoothly. I said, we're both exhausted. I shouldn't have gotten back together with you. Let's break up. Adrian's lips moved slightly, then suddenly curved into a ridiculous smile. So just because I said you might have something with him, you like him? No, I just think. I looked up at him, a little lost. I had liked Adrian for so many years. Since high school, I had been secretly in love with him, but falling out of love seemed to happen in just an instant. I didn't even know when exactly it started. But somehow, all of a sudden, every feeling I had for him seemed to disappear. I just think. I don't like you anymore, and I know you don't like me either. All these years, it was only because I clung to you shamelessly that we ended up together. Now it's good, we don't have to force anything anymore. Adrian froze. Rainwater dripped down his hair. He stared at me in a daze, his voice carrying a hint of hoarseness. What did you say? I said, I don't think I like you anymore. Stop joking. Adrian suddenly laughed. But there wasn't a trace of laughter in his eyes. His voice began to tremble. Take it back. Margarita, take that fucking sentence back. I'll pretend I didn't hear it. I can't take it back. An overwhelming sense of relief rushed through me like a dam bursting open. I suddenly regretted getting back together with Adrian in the first place. I thought about it. Maybe we really aren't right for each other. Maybe someone like Teresa suits you more. You two are the same type of people. Being together only exhausts us both. Exhausts? Adrian suddenly grabbed my wrist hard. Each word squeezed out from between his teeth. You were the one who said you liked me, and now you're the one saying you don't. Margarita. What the hell did I not do well enough? I admit I neglected you before, but now I've changed. Isn't it enough? If there's something you're not satisfied with, tell me. I can change. Isn't that enough? No need. I shook off his hand forcefully. You don't need to change. We're just not suitable. Behind me, Adrian stood silently. I began packing my things. There wasn't much of my stuff in the house. After we got back together, I hadn't brought many things back. Maybe some part of me already knew this relationship wouldn't last. When I dragged out my suitcase, it was only then that Adrian seemed to realize I really meant to break up. He stood in the dark, his voice drifting. Margarita, you really want to break up with me? I pulled the suitcase behind me. Sorry for wasting so many years of your time. Chapter 7. Maybe it was just bad luck. But during work I suddenly felt a sharp pain in my stomach. It felt like acute gastroenteritis all over again. The pain lasted for a while. I couldn't bear it anymore. But I had an important meeting that afternoon, so I could only lean against my desk. Breathing heavily, a hand suddenly tapped me. What's wrong? Sleepy? I lifted my head and saw Thomas. The smile on his face instantly disappeared when he saw how pale I looked. What's going on? He frowned and touched my forehead. You're burning up. Fever? It's nothing, I said weakly. Just some gastroenteritis. After the meeting, I'll go to the hospital. What do you mean after the meeting? Thomas grabbed my wrist. Come on, I'm taking you to the hospital. Wait, my eyes widened. You still have that meeting. The afternoon meeting is important. You have to be there. It's cancelled. We'll do it tomorrow. Don't worry. In a daze, I was dragged into his car. I felt so awful I didn't even notice he brought me to the hospital where Adrian worked. I opened my mouth. But in the end, I said nothing. The pain was too much. I really couldn't go to another hospital. Fortunately, we didn't run into Adrian. The doctor prescribed Infor. With the needle in my hand and a fever burning through me, I felt cold all over. A suit jacket suddenly draped over my shoulders, warm, instantly driving the chill away. I looked up. Thomas had sat down beside me naturally, gently holding the 4-tube while guiding my head to rest on him. Sleep. I'll wake you when it's done. He moved so fast that I only realized my head was on his shoulder after everything was already settled. But strangely, I felt unexpectedly at ease. The pain dulled. His suit carried a clean scent, and sleepiness washed over me. Before I knew it, I had fallen asleep, half awake. I dreamed of Thomas shaking my shoulder, telling me it was time for the meeting. I panicked and opened my eyes, only to see Thomas on the phone. His brows were tightly knit. Organize the meeting minutes. I'll review them when I get back later. After he hung up, I said blankly, I thought you said the meeting was cancelled. He paused. You're sick. Yet you're still worrying about that? Did I wake you? No. I shook my head and lifted my gaze to the 4-pole. It's almost done. I'll go call the nurse. Thomas stood up, but I grabbed him. Did you see my phone? I can't find it. He handed it to me. Call your number. I'll get the nurse. I took the phone, but as I was about to dial, my hand accidentally tapped the camera. A thumbnail photo in the lower left corner of the screen made me freeze. I clicked it instinctively. It was a picture of me, eyes closed, getting Infor. The exact same kind of photo had been taken several times. Why did Thomas take pictures of me? Panic stirred in my stomach. I was about to turn off the screen when a shadow suddenly fell over me. I looked up. Thomas was already sitting beside me again. The nurse will be here soon. He leaned in and adjusted the jacket on me. Still hurting? The next second, his gaze landed on the photo in my hand. His pupils contracted sharply, and his face flushed red. I tried to move back, but my hair got caught in the gap of the chair, trapping me, leaving me awkwardly pressed against Thomas. Why were you secretly taking pictures of me? I tugged at him, both anxious and in pain. He bent over from the force of me pulling him, and the solid chest muscles he trained every day at the gym ended up pressed right against my face. We were practically cheek to cheek, so close I brushed against his face several times. Thomas's cheeks turned bright red as he gritted his teeth. Don't move. Sweetheart. Margarita? Adrian strode in from outside. He froze for 1 second, then exploded in fury. What are you two doing? He moved too abruptly and violently yanked Thomas away from me. A few strands of my hair were ripped out instantly. The pain made me bare my teeth. Thomas staggered back a step, his expression turning ice cold in a second. He didn't bother fixing his disheveled collar. Instead, he immediately shielded me and the swaying force stand behind him, his voice dangerously low. You hurt her. Adrian's glasses were knocked crooked during the pull, revealing the bloodshot eyes underneath. He didn't look at Thomas at all, only stared at me, chest rising and falling sharply. No wonder you suddenly wanted to break up. Turns out you already found your next man. You couldn't wait, could you? Adrian, what the hell is wrong with you? I was stunned and furious, trying to push Thomas aside so I could keep the foreline steady. But Thomas didn't budge. He took Adrian's sudden punch head on. He grunted, the corner of his mouth instantly bleeding. Fuck. Thomas spat, murderous rage flickering in his eyes. He didn't hesitate, landed a fast, brutal punch straight into Adrian's abdomen. Adrian doubled over in pain, his glasses flying off completely and shattering under a foot. The consultation room instantly descended into chaos. Patients nearby turned to look. At some point, Teresa had rushed over and tried to pull Adrian back. Senior, calm down, this is a hospital. But Adrian shoved her off violently. She fell to the ground, her hand landing on the broken 4 bottle shards, blood immediately welling up. She screamed, but Adrian didn't hear a thing, still locked in a vicious fight with Thomas. He was like a lion whose territory had been invaded, blinded with rage, grabbing Thomas by the collar as they attacked one another without a single word. Each blow was heavier than the last. Both of them were quickly covered in bruises. Enough. I gritted my teeth, pulled the needle out of my hand, and marched over to separate them. In the middle of the struggle, Adrian froze when he saw the fresh blood rapidly spreading across the back of my hand. Ignoring his own injuries, he grabbed a piece of gauze from the side and pressed it onto my wound. I took a deep breath. I didn't break up with you because of him. Thomas is my boss. He brought me here today out of kindness. I broke up with you simply because I don't love you anymore. The hospital leadership soon arrived, shouting angrily at Adrian. Adrian, how can you fight with a patient? Do you have any idea what kind of punishment this could lead to? Adrian didn't even glance at him. He just stared at me, unblinking. For the first time, those usually calm, restrained light brown eyes were filled with cracks, fractured and broken. Teresa pushed herself up from the ground, her expression twisted with hostility as she looked at me. She limped toward Adrian, trying to hold his arm. Senior. Adrian didn't hear her at all. He flung her hand away mercilessly. Teresa's face went pale. Let's go. I tossed the blood-soaked gauze aside and pulled Thomas with me. Thomas raised an eyebrow, then followed obediently. Behind me, Adrian stood frozen in place, rigid, unmoving, his gaze nailed onto my back. Chapter 8. When we got into the car, I finally realized Thomas was hurt badly. The cut on his brow bone had split open, and blood trickled down onto his long eyelashes, the droplets blinking away with each tremor. Thankfully there was a first aid kit in the car. I frowned as I treated his wound. Sorry, you were just being kind driving me here. Yet you got dragged into this disaster. No, I froze. What? I wasn't being kind. I'm not the type who goes out of my way to help someone who doesn't matter. I looked up and met Thomas's deep, dark eyes. Your ex hit the right person. He could tell I like you. The sudden confession made the iodine bottle pause in my hand, my mind going blank. Thomas suddenly leaned forward. A sudden kiss brushed the corner of my lips, light, quick, carrying the taste of iodine. Sorry, I couldn't help it. Is that clear enough now? My eyes widened, instinctively pulling back, but I just I know you just broke up. You're probably not ready for a new relationship yet. It's fine. Thomas lowered his gaze. In the cramped car, we were close enough to feel each other's breath. His fingers brushed lightly over the spot he had just kissed. Don't rush to refuse me. I can wait. When did you? My lips felt hot, and my heart thumped hard. Since I was your intern. I've been waiting since then. Thankfully, you finally broke up. Thomas smiled and used the title he hadn't used in a long time. Sister. I'll treat you much better than he ever did. Give me a chance. Coastal cities always get violent summer storms. Before bed that night, I heard raindrops hammering against the window. Streams of water running down the glass. Knocks mixed into the thunder almost went unnoticed. I frowned, opened the door, and saw Adrian standing outside. Rainwater dripped down his hair, pooling at his feet. He looked utterly disheveled. His eyes were red, and dampness clung to him along with the smell of alcohol. You've been drinking? Don't you have work today? I frowned even tighter. Adrian seemed not to hear me. His voice was hoarse. Margarita, what do I have to do for you to be satisfied? I know, I treated you badly before. I know I put you through so much. But this time, after we got back together, I really tried. You said I never shared my life with you, so I started talking to you more. You said you didn't like Teresa, so I cut contact with her. You wanted me to care more about you, so I tried to do more. But you just grew more and more distant. Why? You weren't like this before. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked like he was in agony. After breaking up with you, I realized how deeply I hurt you before. I really regret it. I've been miserable without you. I can't eat, can't sleep. I dream about you every night. When I open or close my eyes, all I see is you at home. I don't even dare go back home. I can't sleep and have to take sleeping pills. All these years, you were the one accommodating me. I thought we'd never break up. I thought you'd stay by my side forever. That you'd never leave me. I lowered my eyes. But how could that be? Adrian? No one in this world is truly unable to live without someone. I understand now. Please, give me another chance. All right? I'll change. I promise I will never. I cut him off. But Adrian, can you restore a shattered mirror? He froze. Those memories I had suppressed for so long rose up again. All those nights, the pain that tormented me never truly faded. His cold indifference when he ignored my suffering. His refusal to keep distance from Teresa. Every night when I couldn't feel a trace of love yet forced myself to hold on. Those nights I couldn't sleep, lying awake with tears in my eyes, waiting for the sleeping pills to take effect. I can't get past it. I really wanted to forgive you, to start over with you, and I believe what you're saying now is true. But Adrian, I lifted my head and looked at him. Every second I look at you reminds me of how miserable I once was. The more time I spend with you, the more it hurts. I want to forget. But I can't. I can't get over this hurdle. Adrian opened his mouth, and a droplet slid down from the corner of his eye. I couldn't tell if it was rain or a tear. I did like you very much once. I let out a bitter smile. But love gets worn down. Every time you hurt me, a piece of it chipped away. And now, there's nothing left. A warm drop landed on the back of my hand. I finally realized it was a tear. Sorry. I pressed my lips together. You should head back. I sincerely wish you happiness in the future. I mean it. After I closed the door, there were no footsteps outside for a long time. I knew Adrian hadn't left. I leaned against the door, separated by a single door. We remained silent. When I loved him, he didn't love me. But when he loved me, I no longer loved him. Maybe we were never meant to be. Chapter 9. When I heard the news that Adrian had resigned, I was about to go abroad with Thomas. He had been pursuing me for half a year before we finally confirmed our relationship. I had been too frightened by everything that happened with Adrian, too scared to casually start another relationship. But Thomas was persistent and sincere, and eventually, I softened and agreed. Before boarding the plane, I received a call from a friend. She was a mutual friend of mine and Adrian's. She spoke cautiously. Did you know Adrian resigned? I was stunned. What? My friend sighed. He had such a bright future. Why did he suddenly throw it all away? He was the youngest department director in the whole hospital. He could have become the hospital director someday. He never made major mistakes in all these years, but somehow, A few months ago, something happened. I heard he suddenly got into a fight with a patient. After that, his condition went downhill. He kept making mistakes, almost caused a medical accident. In the end, he resigned himself, saying he couldn't continue. What a waste. I don't know what happened to him. I remained silent. After ending the call, I looked up at the sun. The blinding light reminded me of the first time I saw Adrian when I was 17. I had been hit on the head by a basketball while passing by the court. I was squatting on the ground, holding my head, tears in my eyes. A clear voice sounded above me. I looked up to see a boy in a basketball jersey reaching his hand toward me, his face full of concern. His eyes were brighter than the sun itself, so bright they made me dizzy. Are you okay? Are you hurt? In a daze, I lifted my hand to take his. In that moment, the entire world went silent, and all I could hear was the violent pounding of my own heartbeat. 10 years swept past in a blur, memories fading quickly. The next moment, someone else stood before me. Adrian's face disappeared, replaced by another. Thomas waved his hand in front of me. What's wrong? The plane is about to take off. He picked up my luggage and held out his hand toward me. Let's go. I held his hand.